Lords, I rise to support the Amendment 262 in the name of Lord Sharp and others, because I want to talk about a simple economic truth. One of the provisions in this bill is to reduce the thresholds through which industrial action may be called or authorised. And the truth is that when you reduce the threshold, the likelihood of industrial action just doesn't grow linearly, it grows exponentially. And I think this amendment is needed because it's going to provide, sadly, the world a real-life experiment which will inform political and economic science of that simple truth. But I think it could be worse than that, because my experience comes from local government, and by I'll tell you my relationship with the National Joint Committee. But local government employs 1.8 million local government workers. There are three principal unions: Unite, Unison, GMB. Within the cohort of local government workers, I have negotiated with the craft workers, the Salisbury workers, the coroners. There's a red book, a green book, a blue book. There's even a gold book. With 80, which cover the 80 senior fire officers and police officers. There's 136 different activities that local authorities do, and of course there are 350 principal councils. And I've engaged with all this complexity over about 10 years sitting on the National Joint Committee, the device through which the employers engage with the unions. I've sat alongside the Noble Baroness Lady Taylor for many years on that body, and now we both find ourselves in here. As part of the gang of four, the top four local government councillors engaged in these important negotiations, I've learnt a lot of things. There's less beer, there are fewer sandwiches, and there are palatial premises in Euston built by one of the unions there. Look, it hasn't been easy work, but we've had a series of national agreements engaged on a respectful basis. It's been valuable work. And the important point is there have been powerful incentives to avoid industrial action. The bar hasn't been impossible, but it's been a high bar against which local government, against which strike action must be called. And it's sort of worked because there's been an equilibrium between the employer and the employees across 1.8 million, nearly a third, well, just under a third of all unionised workers in this country. And that equilibrium has meant that when there is a strike, it's serious. When people down tools, it's in the news. And the Birmingham bin strike is a case in point where there's a strike, it's serious. And my anxiety about so many of the provisions in this bill is that it's going to dissolve the powerful incentives to avoid industrial action and instead arithmetically and structurally put in the provisions where it's encouraged. This bill sets the wrong balance because we're not talking about simple organisations with single unions and small workforces in local government. We're talking about a very complex landscape. And the point is that if you reduce the thresholds and people are more likely to strike. Because what it means is a minority, as little as 10% of the workers could call a strike. And when 10% hold the 90% over a barrel, that's clearly not in the interests of the public, it's not in the interests of the workers, and I don't believe in the long term it's in the interests of the unions. So my point is that Amendment 262 calls for a robust assessment of the effect of these on the days lost to industrial action. And not really, because not only is that the right thing, but we're going to do a service, because it will demonstrate once and for all that simple efficiency of labour relations. If you reduce the threshold to call industrial action, the amount of days lost to strikes will go up geometrically. I regret we're going to have to do a service to political and economic science, but if that's the way it is, Amendment 262 is the way to achieve it.
My Lords.